Everybody's seeing the gas prices these days, and I was curious, how do these guys still make money, you know? The Doordashers, the Skip the Dishes, and the Uber Eats guys. So I wanted to find out and give you all the info. So far, I have signed up for Uber Eats, and I have started sign-up process for a couple other ones because I do want to compare them as well. So far, I've only been doing this for about a week out of curiosity, and I could tell you right now, this is maybe a public service announcement for people ordering these kinds of services. The $3 fee that you're paying for your delivery is absolutely nothing. And if you don't tip, your driver could make as little as $8 an hour. So when ordering these kinds of services, I would encourage people to maybe tip a little bit more. They really do thrive on tips. All right, now, delivery and Uber and all that kind of stuff is all about math. You have to know some kind of decent amount of math, all right? I'm going to show you the first step that you want to do to find out exactly how much income you're doing. Most cars, when you hop in them, have this thing that shows you your average consumption. Before you start your trip, what you want to do is you want to reset that. And once you do that, you're also going to have a kilometer meter, which is a trip. You also want to reset that to 0. So this one is going to show you how many kilometers you're going to be driving that day, and the other one is going to give you your average fuel economy and how many liters per 100 kilometers you've used. With the current price of gas, you'll be able to determine exactly how much this trip actually cost you to fill up your car. Now, if you're in the US, you have miles per gallon. Most of your cars will have a description of how much miles per gallon you have there. Same thing, reset your odometer to see how many miles you're going to do on the trip. And then you're going to have to do the math on depending on your miles per gallon and the current price of gas per gallon to see how much you actually spent on the trip. I will show later in detail how to do those calculations if you need to. If your car does not have an average fuel economy reader, what you can do is when you start your trip, go fill up your car, do your trip. When you come back, fill it back up, and you know exactly how much gas you have. Or if you don't want to do the math, that's also an easy trick, but you do have to have a gas station near you, or just remember to fill up before and after your trip. You'll know exactly how much it costs you in gasoline. Now, for me, I live kind of far from the city. I do have to drive out about 6 to 10 kilometers before I start getting jobs, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I just pull up the map, and as you can see here, it's 9:34 a.m. so we're just going to be going into breakfast, and I have $0 earned today. Now, I will be sharing a couple tips and tricks that I have learned when I first started this, because when I did start this, it seemed very, very difficult to make money. I believe actually the first couple hours I started doing this, after factoring the price of gas, I was making about $8 an hour. And that could sound very discouraging if you're just starting this kind of delivery service. So there are actual tips and tricks that you can do to avoid getting yourself screwed. But I did mention it does require a little bit of math. As I get jobs later today, I will show you exactly what I'm talking about, because sometimes you get those $3 jobs popping up, and it's like you got to drive 10 kilometers. That's something you definitely don't want to do. 10 kilometers is about $2.50 of gas once you do the math, well, on the vehicle that I have. I guess another important note to take into consideration here, if you're starting one of these delivery services, make sure you have a car where the gas consumption is a little more decent. Unfortunately, I'm just doing this as an experiment, so all I have is an SUV, a minivan, and a sports car. All of those are very bad options for me. Last time I did this, especially city driving with the minivan that I'm in right now, I was doing an average of 15 liters per 100 kilometers. A good idea is to have a very small compact car. If you have a little Honda Civic, you'll be using about half the gas that I do. But I'll still show you all the numbers, and it is possible, if you don't have the option of getting a more fuel economy car, then you can still do this and make it this decent wage. So let's get started. All right, guys, so this is the sound you're gonna see. See, I had to drive in 6.4 kilometers. Got a first job. Now this one is, I'm gonna screenshot it for you guys. It's not that terrible, but I'm gonna accept it. It's 8.4 kilometers, so that's still like $2 of gas.
Using the left lane may cause
So
on this drive.
We'll see where that takes us. Usually when you pick these orders up, they're ready right away. But there has been once that I had to wait 20 minutes because of some order screw-ups. And that's when it could really hurt your hourly income. If you have to wait 20 minutes, that's like losing a third of your annual income by just waiting. But that's something you can't really help. All right, so we're pulling up on the address here. The GPS says 2 more minutes, and it currently is 9:56, and we started this job at 9:44. The pickup was really quick, so in 2 minutes, it will be 14 minutes total for this delivery. Now, sometimes I accept jobs to also get to where I want to go. This job sent me a little more into the center of the city. This will help me. Like I said, I live on the outskirts, so when I have to drive into the city, I'm already wasting 6 kilometers. And again, this job was about 8 kilometers, so I'll show the math on the screen right now, how much on this one job we would be making on an hourly basis. So you might be thinking, hey, that's not that great of a job, right? But at least it's helping me get where I'm going. Now this is where one of the tips is going to come in handy towards the end of your trip. I like to take my trips and see where they're going to try to take me back as close as I can to where I live before I finish my trip. That way it's a win-win when it comes to saving for gas. If I end my trip right now, I still have to drive 20 kilometers to go home. That's not always worth it. Alright, so that delivery was successful. I'll show you on the screen what messages people leave for you. Usually it just says leave at door. This one specified that they didn't want the doorbell to be rang. I generally don't ring the doorbell if it just says leave at door. I wait for the message to actually say ring the doorbell, please. But if it doesn't specify, it's up to you. You can ring the doorbell or not. Usually you're gonna get dogs barking. I don't know if that's what they were trying to avoid. But when you finish the trip, they still get a notification on their phone that the food is there. So I don't think that really makes a difference. Now generally you get jobs on the last minute as you're ending a job. I didn't get one this time, but it is still early. It's 10 a.m. So usually it doesn't actually get busy until closer to 11 for lunches. Right now it's mainly coffee deliveries. Like this was a Starbucks delivery. So you kind of want to place yourself where you think it's going to be more popular. Now, one interesting tip that I have found is that I like to place myself in front of places that are popular, but the only way you're going to notice that is once you start driving. A lot of people say McDonald's are popular, and it is true. There's a plaza that has a Subway and a McDonald's. I like to park there sometimes, and orders come in. The only problem with that one is if you're already at the location where you're supposed to pick up, chances are you will be waiting for food. That is actually what happened to me the one time I had to wait 20 minutes. Besides that, there was a little screw up. They were busy during their lunches. There was a lot of orders coming in, and me sitting for 20 minutes, that's not good for income. So if you're looking to make more than $8 an hour, you gotta see which jobs you pick and pick your battles. Pick them wisely and know your math. You know, it's very important to know how much gas costs you just driving 5 or 10 kilometers. Knowing that ahead of time will help you decide whether you want to accept the job and make a smarter decision on how it's going to go. Generally speaking, I say don't accept the $3 jobs. It will take you about 15 minutes, no matter what, even if it's really close, just to go to the place, pick up the food, and drop it off. So if you do, even though, let's say, we're not even factoring gas, so even all these locations that you're gonna get are really close. 15 minutes, in an hour, you can only do 4 of those jobs. Now, after you do 4 times $3, you're gonna make $12 an hour. Now, I don't know about where you are located, but here in Ontario, that is less than minimum wage, and you definitely don't want to make $12 an hour, especially because you have to factor in gas prices and the fuel you're using on top of that. All right, you see that job? I'm putting it up on the screen from the screenshot. It's a $3 Uber order, and I'm not gonna take a $3 Uber order even though I'm right here on location. The reason was, again, it's a 12 minutes. That's a long time. If I have to drive 12 minutes, even though maybe the distance wasn't that bad, you are going, after gas, be making under $10 an hour. If that's what you're happy with, then that's fine. But I'm just here to show you exactly how much you can make and how this works. So even though it's 2.6 kilometers, 2.6 kilometers is going to take away from your gas about 50 cents to $1. So you're gonna make $2. Usually with those $3 deliveries, I've noticed that they don't tip. The other ones that come that are higher than $3, something if you see like 6, 8, those are deliveries that were ordered and the tip was already delivered. It was like pre-tip. So generally, if someone is ordering with the base fare of $3 for the delivery, they weren't intending on tipping because they already had the option to do so when they placed their order. So that's something to think about, and that's why I've learned to get rid of those $3 orders. It's up to you. You can of course do them if it's on your way or you're going there or you want to make it. I've taken plenty of $3 orders. But what I'm saying is chances are you're not going to get more than that $3. It's very rare, and it has happened. I did get like a $1 or $2 tip on those $3 orders, but honestly, the difference between making $8 an hour or 16 is looking at the distance, the time, and how much you're gonna get, and doing that quick math in your head. All right, guys, see, that's what we want to be taking. I mean, I'm gonna screenshot this, but this is a pickup from the McDonald's that I'm actually parked at. You can see it right over there. So there's no need for me to actually go in there right now because I'll probably need to prepare this order. Oh, and sometimes you could get stuff like this where there's an order that pops up and it's just extra, like, cause it's kind of on your way. But this is $2 for an extra 2 kilometers. I'm just gonna cancel that. It's obviously somebody that's not a tipper. So I'll just keep editing here for like 2 more minutes and just head over to the McDonald's, which is right across the plaza. And you saw how short this drop-off was? It's a total for the whole thing from the plaza to their house, which looks like it's just across the street from this plaza. It's 400 meters. I'm not even gonna spend any gas, and it's $6.67 with the predetermined tip. That's really good. Alright, see that, guys? That's definitely an Uber driver. Please don't do that. Just park right here. Like, you can find a parking spot. It's not that hard. Look, there's one right here. There you go. Like, I noticed some drivers, you just freaking park in the middle of a fire zone, no parking. It's just not right. Don't do it, all right? I just picked up the order, and pretty much it was 12:44. So I actually had to wait approximately 8 minutes to get the food, and that's why I didn't drive there right away. But I'm actually going to show you how close this drop-off is. It's literally across the street from this plaza. So as soon as we get out of this parking lot, we just cross the street, and apparently that's where my drop-off is. Let's see. Sometimes you have to drop off to businesses or apartment buildings. This looks like a business because it literally is across the street. This is 5 Brisdale, and they didn't give me any more details, so this is kind of annoying. So I'm gonna park right here. And see if I can figure out where they are. So one cool thing on the app is you can actually message them, or you can call them. So I'm gonna give them a call, see if they answer, to save some time. Well, gave her a call. She said she would come out, and boom, she just came out. I'm guessing she was working in one of the offices upstairs. And if you look at this plaza over here, there's just a whole bunch of shops at the lower floor and offices upstairs. So she didn't give a specific address, but maybe she was up there in one of the law offices above the shops. But again, that was, wow, so 46, like 12 minutes, including drop off and waiting 8 minutes for the food. I was still just chilling and editing. That was a good 666. So I'm getting another request. Let's see what that's about. All right, so you see that one, 641, and it's 2 pickups, 2 drop-offs, and total of 10 kilometers. So after I subtract my gas, I guess less than $3. And you gotta have that quick knowledge of math, so I can just reject the offer like I did the previous order, which was less than 1 kilometer, and it was 1 delivery, made more money than these 2 at 10 kilometers. So as long as you have some basic knowledge of that math in your head real quick, you could do that. But you know, you're never guaranteed that you're going to keep getting good jobs. Also, if you reject 3 jobs, they kick you off, and then you got to come back on. I don't think there's any repercussions yet, but I will find out later, because I am canceling a lot of jobs. And this one is not that great, same as last time, but it's 2 deliveries for 7 clicks. But it's going in the direction of my house, so I'm gonna accept that one just for fun. So the cool part about this order is that it's also in the same plaza where I just was. I'll show you right over there. I just backed up a little further right in front of the shop. It's called Royal Pan, but both pickups for the 2 orders are at the same place. So it's kind of one pickup. You got to pick up the 2 orders, and then just got to drop off to 2 separate people and addresses. But usually when they pair them together, they are fairly close to each other, but we'll see, it's not always true. It did say 7 kilometers, so I wonder where I gotta go. But at least it's going in the direction that I need to go, which is obviously a bonus. Now, since I was in the plaza, I'm again going to be timing and seeing how long it's going to be for me to actually get the food, because when you get the order, typically what happens, they also just receive the order. It doesn't really take that much time. There's a lot of drivers around in the area, so I'll give you a final number on that shortly. Alright, so I picked up both of the orders. It was about similar wait time as the McDonald's order. I think it was only about 7 or 8 minutes. It wasn't ready when I went in after 5, so I waited an extra 2-3 and I got everything. So 8 minutes seems to be pretty good if you're exactly where you need to be. But what's good is when you finish a job, like I mentioned, somewhere in the last minute, they'll offer you some jobs which means you still have a minute to finish and then probably a couple minutes to drive to a new location. Generally, that food is going to be ready. Me, as since I'm camping for the higher paying jobs, generally I get pinged in the plaza of the place that someone's ordering from, because I'm just there. So it is convenient, and their system kind of can see that because they know where you are at all times. And that's why I had to wait, which was convenient for me because, like I said, today I've just been editing a video while I was in the car. I figured 2 for 1. It would be good if you're doing this job and you have something that you would like to do, like listen to an audiobook or a podcast that's usually like 2-3 hours. They'll give you, like, instead of doing that at home, sitting on your couch and watching a podcast or listening to a podcast or listening to an audiobook, you could sit in your car and do the same thing while camping for some higher paying jobs. It's a win-win if you have things to do in the car. Sometimes you have a lot of phone calls to make. You got to call your bank because you wanted to change your plan, or your cell provider, or your accountant to talk about something, or even just catch up with some friends. It's a good time to do that. You get the hands-free driving stuff, like some AirPods or a Bluetooth device in your ear, and you just sit in your car and catch up with old friends, depending what time you're doing it. Over dinner time is probably best because most people during lunchtime would probably be at work. But yeah, I definitely recommend a good audiobook or some podcasts that you can pop on here and have time go by better and faster. But like me today, I was editing, so that was still kind of convenient. All right, we're back at the crib after we're done. I'm just gonna show you here. So my average is 13.7 liters per 100 kilometers, and I did 69.8 kilometers. I'm just gonna round that up to 70 kilometers. Now let's go inside, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to calculate how much I spent on gas on this one trip. All right, guys, so right here I am just pulling up the first job, but instead of putting the distance of the job, I put the whole distance. So as you can see here, my consumption was 13.7 liters per 100 kilometers. I did 70 kilometers, and the current gas price was $1.87.9 per liter here in the area. So what you're going to do is exactly what that equation looks like. You're going to take this 13.7 divided by 100, and then multiply it by 70, and then multiply it by 1.879, the price of gas. And the total that I spent on those 70 kilometers is just over $18 of fuel. Now, I wanted to bring back this first job because last time, as you see, the gas spent was $2.17 on a job that was $6.24, and it only took 14 minutes. So if you multiply that by the time factor, you should technically be netting $17.44 per hour. But if the job actually took 20 minutes to complete, like the estimate said, that quickly brings down your hourly net pay to $12.21. And since we didn't have another job lined up, I want you to know you're not always going to be making that kind of average. I will show you now the complete average of what I have done in 7 days that I've worked there, how many hours, how much, and how much I spent for gas. I'm actually going to put up a screenshot here to show you I actually mark down my gas every day and trip, so you can see exactly how much you spend. That way I can go back to that and keep subtracting my gas so I know exactly how much I get net pay. What is most important? It's the net pay. Nobody wants to hear, oh, I'm making $25 driving Uber, but they have no clue how much they spent on gas. Because in reality, that $25 could be $12. You never know. And I want to know. I want to know exactly how much I'm bringing in at the end of the day, including all my expenses. And I'm sure you do too, wanting to start this job. That's the point of this video. I want to show you exactly how to calculate your net income working for this job. All right, let's dive right into how to calculate the gas that your car is consuming and how are you going to predict how much money a job is going to cost you. So we're going to start with miles per gallon for everyone that deals with miles and gallons, and then I'm going to show you also the liters per 100 kilometers. Now, the number that you want to find first to help you with all your jobs is how much 1 mile actually costs you and how much 1 kilometer will cost you to drive. Why? Because that's the simplest math. Usually when you get a job, you can see if it's 1, 2, 3, or 10 miles, then you just multiply that number by the amount of miles that you get on the job offers. So in order to find out how much money you're spending per gallon, I'm going to give you an example because I'm sure every state has different gas prices. Maybe in Alaska you're paying $4.80 a gallon, in California you're probably paying over $6. So bear with me here. This is my example. Your car does 30 miles per gallon. That's an example. You're obviously going to put the number that your car does. You have a car that does 20 miles per gallon. Great. My example is my car. I can get 30 miles per gallon out of it, so that's great. And I want to find out how much it actually costs me for 1 mile if the current gas price is $6. So what I do is I take 1, then I divide it by 30, and I multiply it by the current gas price. It's that simple. So for me to drive 1 mile cost me 20 cents. Now if you're dealing with liters and kilometers, so certain parts of Europe or Canada, the equation's pretty easy. You take how much your car consumption is. So in this example that I wrote up here on the board, I'm saying it's 12 liters that the car does per 100 kilometers. And I want to find out the price of 1 kilometer. So I take the 12, I divide it by 100, I multiply it by 1, which is the distance. And then the current gas price here, as I mentioned, was $1.87.9. So for me to drive 1 kilometer, it actually cost me 23 cents of gas. Now, I'm going to pop up on the screen here an example. You get this job offer, $3.38 for 5.4 kilometers. Now, naturally, I'm going to do the example in kilometers because that's the only option I really have available being here in Canada. So very quickly, what you do is you're going to take out your calculator and you know exactly how much it costs you for 1 kilometer on a trip. It's 23 cents. So what you do, so you take the 23 cents that you know you use per kilometer, you multiply it by the 5.4 kilometers, and you get about $1.24 in gas. So if you subtract that from this job, that's $3.38, this job is actually going to make you about $2.14. If you're going to be driving 16 minutes to net $2.14, that's exactly how you make $8 an hour with this job. You can tell that this is going to cost you a lot on gas. It is 15 minutes, which is fairly average, but the kilometers are high, and that's where you're going to start losing. All right, another feature that I want to talk about is when you open the driver app, right there, you will see earnings forecast for outside core areas. Now, this is one of the tips that I mentioned. If you want more jobs and more options to get better jobs, you do want to be in an area that has a lot of people ordering so you can actually have options instead of sometimes sitting waiting for 1, 5, 10 minutes. So if I press on that and I show you my area, which like I mentioned is still almost 10 kilometers away, it seems to be very popular around 7 a.m. and then 12 and 1 o'clock. And then dinner's not really popular. And as you saw today, I was out there from 9:30 till just about 1 o'clock. And I wasn't getting much jobs between 9:30 and noon. But what's cool is it will show you exactly what you want to do. And one of the tips in this video is to go on busy times. So, this area seems to be busy. Malton, Bolton, looks like they're busy for lunch. But, there are good areas like this one in Mississauga, which is more of a core area, more downtown, definitely more populations. As you can see, the busy times here, maybe they also have a shortage of drivers. They're busy at 8, 9, from 11 to 2, and looks like 5 to 9. And they're even busy at midnight and 1 a.m. when there's people ordering food. That would be a great area to go and actually camp for higher paying jobs, because chances are you're going to get a job within a minute is very high during those high blue bars, and that way you can pick and choose. You can reject more of those $3 and pick up one that's tipping, that's giving $6, $7 for about 4 or 5 kilometers and 15 minutes, of course. But unluckily for me, where I am, my chart is not that popular, not that busy. Either there's less orders or more drivers. You never know, but the algorithm here is pretty cool. They will show you the earnings forecast, and it's based, what it says here, on 4 weeks of actual data in that area. So that is a helpful tool to look out for. Now for the juicy numbers that you've all been waiting for. How much do you actually net per hour? Now up here I have the screenshot of the first week that I started doing this. I only went out on 4 of the days, but it actually shows you how much time you spent online. And I was actually logged in online on the Uber app for 14 hours and 9 minutes. Within that time, I made $285.75. That's including all tips that were given throughout the trips. Now, the amount of gas that I factored in here was over $70. After I take off the gas, my net profit is $207 and a few pennies. Now, if I do divide that by the 14 hours and 9 minutes, it turns out that every hour I netted $14.67 per hour. Now, that's just a little above minimum wage here in North America, or at least Ontario. So, is that a good amount, or do you want to just do that as a side job? That's up to you. Plus, again, this is my personal experience in regards to how much I was making in the area and how much gas costs around here. I did mention I did have to travel a little further. It might be better if you are in the city, but generally it's a great job to get you going. Maybe if you're done work and you find a job that's on your way home, pick up an extra $6, $7. It could always be helpful. And if you're looking for an extra job and want to do this full time, then I strongly suggest that you follow the tips. Get a car that has better fuel economy. Get, hopefully you're in a busier area. Have something to do while you're waiting for jobs. Pick the ones that are better now that you know how to calculate how much gas you're going to be doing. Alright guys, well that's all for me today. Hopefully this video gave you information if you were thinking about starting Uber and seeing how it could pan out. Again, this is just my area too. If you'd like to see more content similar to this, please subscribe and follow. I will try other driving platforms. Also, I'm thinking I will go the 30 kilometers down to the busy areas I showed before, Mississauga, see if it's better, see what the highest I can actually get per hour while trying this side gig. It could be interesting because you know what, the numbers could be a lot different. $14 an hour is not that bad, but honestly, if you have to provide your own car and the maintenance that you have to put on that, doing oil changes, changing your tires or whatever could break on your car, it's not really worth taking that out for hundreds of kilometers every week just to make minimum wage. So that's also something to consider. Smash that like, subscribe. I will have more videos. Hopefully I'll be comparing the numbers between Skip the Dishes and Doordash versus this one, or any other things that I find and I can sign up for. and I'll see if I can actually make over $20 net. I'll give it a shot, and I'll give you all the tips and hints and tricks that you need to know how to achieve that, and if it's even possible. So if you'd like to see that, please subscribe, put that notification bell so you know when I upload, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.